So who should Kurt Angle's final opponent be at Mania 35 before retiring? Who should it be? What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the review space. I just want to make this quick video regarding this topic. I haven't really spoken about this one yet, but Kurt Angle is going to have his final match at Mania, his retirement match. Now, you know, I really would like to believe that this is going to be his final match, but you know, we saw the same thing that happened with Ric Flair. Right? Ric Flair had his supposed retirement match in WWE against Shawn Michaels, where he was getting retired. This was back in, I think, Mania 2008. And so he ended up going to TNA back in, I think it was 2010, and having a few more matches, actual wrestling matches. I think he did an Australian tour with Hulk Hogan. So he had a bunch more wrestling, like in-ring performances, had a bunch of matches that some of them were really bloody and like kind of graphic looking matches. And so it's hard to take these wrestlers, to take their word seriously and actually believe in what they're saying, like, I'm going to retire, but then they come back to wrestling. Even Shawn Michaels. Now, granted, with Shawn Michaels, HBK, he ended up retiring for many, many years. You know, like well over 8 years. I think his last match was WrestleMania 2010, and then he ended up retiring for, you know, a solid 8 years. So that's, you know, an entire generation and a half of pro wrestling. You know, that's almost a decade, or the better part of a decade. And he didn't come back until late 2018. So, you know, he came back and wrestled a bunch of guys again. You know, I think Undertaker and Kane, and maybe Triple H was also involved. I wasn't like paying too much attention when he came back, because I just didn't care when he came back. You know, I mean, I know it's Shawn Michaels, but you know, my interest level isn't like super high. You know, so even somebody like Kurt Angle, one of the best performers of all time, no doubt. He's a legend. He's already, I think, in the Hall of Fame, right? Yeah, I think he is. He's already in HOF, but he's already had he's had a bunch of different matches. He's had a bunch of singles matches on Raw. I think he just recently took on Apollo Crews, and basically got the better of him in his hometown. I think it was Pittsburgh. So that's cool. It's cool that he's kind of like on his farewell tour, so to speak. His final few moments in wrestling, yeah, as far as an in-ring personality. And look, I mean, I have no idea that this guy was going to last this long in pro wrestling. He's a legend in the Olympics. You know, he's one of the greatest American, you know, Olympic-style wrestlers of all time. A former, you know, a gold medalist winner. Of course, he's won so many different world championships and titles across, you know, between TNA and WWE. He's a bona fide Hall of Famer. He's one of the greatest. And so he's had these classic matches over the years, and really in the past, like recent like, you know, couple of years, he hasn't been the same. He's clearly lost a lot of his edge, a lot of his athleticism, a lot of his dynamic, incredible quickness and speed and smoothness. I think it's just his age. He got a lot older. His body started to kind of break down a little bit, and his body's a lot more beat up. So, yeah, you know, he's way past his prime. He's way. To be honest, I thought he was done with wrestling. I thought he was actually retired from in-ring competition when they inducted him into the Hall of Fame. I know that he didn't really announce it, but you know, it was never announced that, hey, I'm officially retired from in-ring, and I'm just gonna be inducted in the Hall of Fame, and that's it. No, like I actually thought, even though it wasn't said like that I thought that he was legitimately done with the in-ring performing. And I didn't have confidence that WWE would even allow him to perform in the ring to begin with. They wouldn't allow him to perform for years and years and years, you know, because they didn't want an Olympic gold medalist potentially breaking down and losing his life while being a part of the WWE roster. So they ended up letting him go, and you know, he was doing a lot of abuse and damage to his health and taking pills and all that stuff. And so, you know, I just thought that he was retired. I thought that he was actually done with in-ring, like when they brought him back and he was inducted into the Hall of Fame. Like, I thought he was finished with pro wrestling. I think that was back in, if I'm not mistaken, that was 2017. Just about a couple of years ago when they brought him back, and then of course, I think that one of his first comeback matches was the Ronda Rousey match in WrestleMania 30 WrestleMania last year, 2018, and he's had a bunch of other like meaningless matches here and there, some ancillary matches that just kind of like little random matches here and there with some people. He's up there in age. He's not a young man anymore. He looks completely old. Oh, Kurt Angle. When the camera focuses on him and you got that HD quality. He looks so old. He looks so old. He's got wrinkles all over his face. He's completely head shaven. Completely bald. Granted, he's been bald for years, ever since the mid 2000s. But he just You take young Kurt Angle, Kurt Angle back in like late 90s, like when he first came into WWF, and even the early 2000s when he still had a little bit of hair, a good-looking guy, thick neck, and I think even back then, like I remember Stephanie McMahon on commentary when she was a young woman in her early 20s, and she would be like, "Oh yeah, Kurt Angle, yeah, I think he's kind of cute," you know what I'm saying? So Kurt Angle was kind of like almost like a young, handsome, like movie actor, like he was a good-looking dude, like he was like a pretty boy almost. Just he looked young. He had that youthful look, and he looks so different now. He's such a completely like morphed-looking individual. He's aged so bad, and it's such a disappointing thing when you see these guys that. Look, I was right there in the Attitude Era watching that stuff. When he first came in and he had the 3 eyes and he took on, when Taz debuted and defeated his streak, and, this was before he even became WWF champion, before he even defeated The Rock. I think back in, maybe that was like late, was it, maybe sometime in 2000 when he first became WWF champion. Maybe it was 2000. I think it's 99. 99 was a different time. I think 99 was when he came in and actually became an in-ring competitor. Yeah, so I was still watching WWF at the time, that late 99, early 2000 period, when he was like new and fresh and just a completely different character. He was kind of a parody of the American hero, and, he was a really easily detestable heel, but he was so good at it, and he had so much charisma and personality that, and he was a goofy character. He was a goofball, but he had that legitimate gold medal, convincing athletic background. So now that he's retiring in 2019, supposedly, as advertised, I'm assuming that he does end up retiring at Mania. That's his final match, his send-off match. Yeah, that's a good thing. I'm trying to speculate who should be his final opponent. Who can be his final match? Who should be his final, opponent, his final rival for this last match? And I think if I had to choose somebody, if I had to speculate somebody that they would have built up if he didn't get injured, or if he got over, and if everything worked out when they had that initial angle, I think Jason Jordan could have been that one individual that would have given him his final match. Now, supposedly, I'm hearing rumors that it's going to be John Cena, which I can understand why. John Cena was the first, when he debuted, John Cena's first match was against Kurt Angle. And Kurt Angle made him look good. I mean, he shined when he stepped toe-to-toe against Kurt Angle. He was coming off that prototype OVW gimmick, and now he's coming in as this kind of generic-looking guy, but he had that, he had the mic skills, he had that ruthless aggression, and he went toe-to-toe against Kurt Angle. He almost got him. He almost, had a win over Kurt Angle. But Angle, it was just, it was very interesting, and to see that come full circle with potentially John Cena being his final WrestleMania opponent, I think it's cool. I'm completely fine with that. It's a great, going full circle, going back to that moment of like when John Cena first came in. Well, now Kurt Angle is on his way out, so it's a nice little like catch you on the way out, catch you on the way down kind of thing. two people that are very familiar with each other, and they have that respect. I'm sure John Cena has a lot of respect for Kurt, and I'm sure that Kurt has a lot of respect for Cena. So it's again, it's a decent match, I think. As far as money wise, as far as drawing ability or anything like that, I think it goes beyond that. I think it's meaningful. You can understand why they're doing it. I'm sure it means a lot to a Kurt Angle to have that final one against Cena, who became like the superstar, became the top face of the company. After taking on Kurt, and all the accomplishments that Cena has had, and being the top baby face for like the past 10, 11, 12, 13 years in WWE, the face of WWE, and then ultimately just becoming almost like a part-timer. And now moving on to Hollywood and different, media, and now he's doing movies, and now, kind of branching off into different things, and he's not really like a full-time WWE guy anymore, so it's like even Cena's on his way out, even Cena's on his way down in as far as touring and traveling and constant, on the grind. So I think it's a nice little send-off if that is the case, that he does end up facing John Cena. But yeah, I was mentioning Jason Jordan. Jason could have been that potential, final match for Kurt Angle, especially being the kayfabe, canonical son of Kurt Angle. Jason Jordan, the son, the biological, son of Kurt. And so I just too bad with Jason, man. I'm very disappointed for his career. I don't know exactly what happened, but I think Jason got injured, or he just suffered some health issues that he wasn't 100%. His health wasn't 100%. So they just took him off TV, and I don't think that Jason ever really got over enough with the crowd where he became like this super, popular guy, or this guy that like the crowd would have a lot of reaction to. He'd just be there. He was just kind of there, and a lot of people, I just don't think a lot of people were convinced, or they never really fully got involved with the, Kurt Angle is his father, son gimmick. The whole angle is just, it's a little bit kind of out there, or just a little bit kind of, it's hard to believe, or it's kind of hokey. It's very, very Jerry Springer-ish, kind of outdated storytelling. But it could have gone somewhere if Jason, maintained a momentum and kind of kept, getting more popular, getting more over, getting more booed by the fans, and he just built up a momentum. There was so much, I think, potential with Jason Jordan, but it just didn't quite pan out, and now even Angle is on his way out as an in-ring performer. So the future of Jason, as somebody that has that tie to Kurt Angle and like being the son, and potentially they could have been a tag team. They could have had matches together. They could have had segments together in the ring and all kinds of different things. It just didn't work out. It just didn't happen. It was like lost potential. They lost a potential top guy in Jason Jordan. It's like, man, what happened? So now that Kurt is supposedly having his final match, I mean, I'm trying to think of like maybe somebody on the current roster that he. The thing is, I'm not even that interested in the final Angle match. I didn't think that he would last this long as far as like having actual matches. I didn't think that they would put him back in the ring. I thought WWE and Vince McMahon would just be like, oh, we can't have this guy, like health issues, and the fact that they didn't even want him back for years and years and years. They didn't want him to return because again, like the pain pill addiction and all that, and his drug use and these different health issues that he had, potentially an Olympic star, an Olympic gold medalist, potentially, croaking in their roster. It's like, it's a big risk. They didn't want to take that risk. So, if I had to guess, I mean, again, Jason Jordan would have been the guy, but he didn't work out. So, anybody else, I'm trying to think, like, other potential dream matches, maybe against, if Jack Swagger was still around, Jack Swagger with the ankle lock and the American, there was a time when they tried to make Jack Swagger kind of look like a new version or the next version of Kurt Angle with the red, blue, and white tights and the American design on his attire. Kind of have that outfit that looks very similar to Kurt Angle. He had the ankle lock and all that. So maybe it could have been Jack Swagger. Jack Swagger's doing his thing and having some success in MMA now. That's pretty cool. But yeah, that would have been a dream match too, kind of. I'm trying to think. Jack Swagger's gone. Jason Jordan's not really. He's not really relevant anymore. I guess Chad Gable to a degree, but I think Chad is just way too. He's like an even shorter version of Kurt Angle. He's like a lot smaller. He's not really a big star. Like nobody really, and the fact that American Alpha is not a tag team anymore. I think they could have had momentum there. There could have been something in American Alpha, and that was already like a few years ago. So they're not even a thing anymore. Maybe Chad Gable back in the day, back in when he was being compared to a young Kurt Angle, with long hair. But it's like even Chad Gable, I just don't think he was ever that relevant of a star. So. You try to think of certain other guys, it's like Bray Wyatt. No, not really. Like that's kind of doesn't even really make any sense. Although it's kind of a nice contrast in different characters, but it's like, who's clamoring for Bray Wyatt against like Kurt Angle, match? It's not really that interesting. Braun Strowman, it's like You try to think of certain other guys, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins. You know what I'm saying? It's like. Finn Balor, even the younger guys, maybe like what's his name, Aleister Black or Ricochet, and these younger, like newer, not younger, but newer guys from NXT. It's like, there's really nobody, maybe, I mean, and the fact that Kurt Angle can't really hang with anybody anymore, like he's not that great in the ring anymore either. He's not like in his prime. He's way, way past his prime. He's a lot slower and a lot more protected. So, there's really not much value in the ring anyway with Kurt. I can't think of any. I honestly, the one real dream match that we all missed, was Bret Hart against Kurt Angle. Bret the Hitman Hart in his prime against Kurt Angle in his prime. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe in the late 90s, like 99, when Kurt first came in, and Bret was still, he wasn't like a young guy anymore. He was in his early 40s, but he still was capable of putting on a match, He was still capable of being in the ring. So you take a 1999 Kurt Angle, a 1999 Bret Hart, who was already, I think, in WCW at that point. So they could have had some pretty decent matches, I think. Some fun matches, but we just never got a chance to see it. That would have been a real freaking awesome match. I almost kind of wish that it's like they would bring back Bret and have him just have a brief confrontation with Kurt instead of having an actual match. They would just kind of have like just like a backstage segment. Not even a backstage. They would go in the middle of the ring at WrestleMania 35 and have like a little face-off. Like, just insult each other, just make fun of each other. Like, Bret is the Canadian hero, Kurt Angle is the American hero, and they could kind of, like, have that back and forth. Like, my country is better than yours, and just shoot back and forth. That would have been kind of fun. But, instead of seeing Kurt Angle have kind of like a mediocre, mediocre, average, not really that impressive kind of match at Mania this year, I just don't think it's going to be that great. Whoever his opponent is, whoever it is, like, probably John Cena, but it's like, it's really not that interesting. I'm trying to think of the younger guys, I really am, and I cannot think of any current, like, modern stars that they have that would even be, like, relevant enough, or would even make sense to go up against, Angle. It's like, aside from Jason Jordan, and again, like, that's not really a thing. So that's it for this episode of Review Space. Check out the channel for more wrestling videos. Subscribe. Click on the bell button for the latest notifications. And until next time, peace.